Hello and welcome. Tonight, despite the Supreme Court's restraining order, Central Bank of Nigeria insists on implementing its deadline on naira swap, vows to prosecute POS operators who charge unapproved rates for transactions. Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, faults the CBN on its decision to disobey the order of the Supreme Court over the use of old naira notes, says the CBN cannot pick and choose which court order to obey. Other presidential candidates of the PDP, APC and Labour Party stormed southeast states of Enugu, Imo and Anambra in last-minute attempts to swing votes to their side. A Nigerian ambassador to Turkey tells our London correspondent Juliana Olayinka, who has been covering the situation in Turkey, that so far no Nigerian lives have been lost in the devastating earthquake.
And on business news, Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited calls for cooperation among African nations to achieve energy security.
And on sports news tonight, Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola issues a public apology to former Liverpool captain Steven Gerrard after a bizarre outburst in a news conference last week.
And from the nation's capital, prepare for a shocker. Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike declares, says those who think that the G5 governors have lost steam will soon know their worth in the nation's politics.
And in international news from London, the head of NATO has warned that Ukraine is in dire need of ammunition ahead of a fresh offensive by Russia.
It appears there is no end in sight to the uncertainty surrounding the current cash crunch in the country, as the Central Bank of Nigeria, the CBN, is insisting that its February 10th deadline for the validity of old naira notes still stands. Speaking at a meeting with members of the diplomatic corps, the governor of the Apex Bank, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, explains that there is no need to shift the deadline. The development comes despite the ex-parte order of the Supreme Court, which restrained the federal government from implementing the February 10th deadline pending the hearing of the matter on February the 15th.
This is the first time that members of the diplomatic corps will be having an official briefing on the redesigning of the three highest denominations of the naira. The issue has generated a lot of controversies recently, and the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs explains that the federal government is not oblivious to these challenges, adding that the government is seeking on ways to resolve it.
We believe that it is our responsibility as a nation to make it easier for you to function in Nigeria. And therefore, after the central bank governor would have apprised you of what the policy is all about, we want to give you an opportunity to also interact with the CBN governor to ask questions that are pertinent to this policy.
The central bank governor has been in the eye of the storm, especially after the Supreme Court ordered that the Apex Bank should suspend the February 10 deadline, pending the determination of a suit filed by some state governors.
The CBN is working hard to shift pressure, to shift resources to those areas in order to ease the tension. The situation is substantially calming down since the commencement of the over-the-counter payment to complement ATM disbursements and the use of super agents. There is therefore no need to consider any shift from the deadline of February the 10th.
The idea behind the policy is the concern for the economy, insecurity and election spending.
We have told the EFCC, the ICPC, working with our CBN monitoring team, to arrest any POS agent that charges any fee, because we had made it clear that whatever is their fee, which is not meant to be more than 200 naira for any amount you exchange, that we, Central Bank, we will pay as part of the cost to lessen the burden of this problem.
The meeting then goes into a closed-door session. The Apex Bank is optimistic that the naira redesign policy is beneficial to the nation's economy and calls for the support of all Nigerians to make it a success.
Meanwhile, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, has faulted the central bank for disregarding the order of the Supreme Court halting the implementation of the redesigned naira swap policy. The rights activist argues that although the Apex Bank was not a party in the suit instituted by 3 states to stop it from implementing the February the 10th deadline, the CBN cannot pick and choose which order to obey as pronounced by the Supreme Court. He was a guest on our program, The 2023 Verdict.
In a country where the rule of law operates, once the Supreme Court has determined a matter or given an order, it is expected that all and sundry, everybody will comply with the order. In this instance, the government was not really ready to comply with the order. The Supreme Court, the central bank, the statement was credited to the central bank. And since it was not a party to the case, it's not going to comply with the order. I thought that could only happen in a banana republic. I was even compared to issue a statement that all agencies of the government, including the central bank, were banned by the orders of the Supreme Court. But here we are. Because you will have expected the central bank to have issued the statement following the order of the Supreme Court. All actions are stayed until the 15th of February. Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami, on Friday last week, on the 10th, while everybody was confused, came out to say the government is going to comply with the order of the Supreme Court. And the government in this case includes the central bank. Because if you look at section 318 of the Constitution, it defines government to include officials of the government. And there are cases where the central bank has been said to be an agency of the federal government. When a court in Abuja granted an order that Mr. Godwin Emefiele be not arrested, he wasn't a party to the case. When he ran to use some proxies to file an action against the central bank board in Delta State, preventing the bank from moving against him for participating in politics, he wasn't a party. So people cannot choose and pick which orders of court to obey.
Now, the CBN seems to have the support of the coalition of civil society organizations as its Central Coordinating Council is appealing to Nigerians to support the naira redesign policy. The group maintains that the policy is facing a syndicated attack from some persons who are determined to ensure the failure of the policy. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the convener of the coalition, Mr. Obed Okukwe, says since the implementation of the new naira policy, Nigerians have continued to face different challenges due to sabotage from some governors.
The hall is filled to capacity as the Central Coordinating Council of the Coalition of Civil Society Organizations in Nigeria converged in Abuja to address the nation on the naira redesign policy. The coalition wants to provide an update on the central bank's new naira policy. The group believes that there is huge benefits in implementing the policy. However, there are some challenges.
We call on Nigerians that our trust on the Mr. President and the CBN governor to make the new naira policy, to make the new naira circulate more, not just circulating more, to be monitored. Because the dark forces, they are the ones buying up the new naira note from people.
We wish to state that as the apex body of the civil society in Nigeria, the entire civil society in Nigeria supports this policy. We support the president and the central bank governor for full implementation of the policy, and we will deny support to all opponents of the policy. We also have confidence in the effort of the president and the central bank governor to ameliorate the genuine suffering and hardship of the people occasioned by the sabotage the system is facing.
Ahead of the presidential election, the coalition warns that the electoral process is under threat as a result of illicit cash.
In a few days, Nigeria goes into general elections. The credibility of election will be questioned if politicians have access to illicit cash with which to compromise the system. We urge those insisting on transacting on the old notes to have one eye on the good of the people and do what is right.
Although the Central Bank of Nigeria insists that there is no shifting the February 10, 2023 deadline, many Nigerians are hopeful that the Supreme Court will do justice to the case brought before it by the governors, who are seeking an extension of the deadline issued by the Apex Bank.
For the Accord Party, it may be time for the federal government and the CBN to review the naira redesign policy in order to reduce the hardship Nigerians are facing. The national chairman of the party, Mr. Mohammed Nalado, stated this during the party's National Executive Committee meeting in Abuja. He also raised concerns over the non-availability of petrol, saying if these two challenges are not properly handled, the situation poses a threat to the upcoming elections.
What is happening in this country today regards to this monetary issue. We are not saying the policy is bad, but we are not happy with the hardship it has caused Nigerian citizens today. We believe if it is not addressed properly, it is going to affect so many things, including the conduct of the election on the election days. You have to use money to buy fuel, you have to use money to run around, and you have to use money to take care of the deployment of your staff to various polling units. So for this election to be successful, the federal government and CBN has to step in to complement. So we are calling strongly, as a political party, Accord is calling strongly on the CBN and the federal government to please step in and save these masses from going or suffering, more of this hardship. Enough is enough, honestly. We are suffering, and we don't want Nigerians to continue suffering.
Let's turn attention to political campaigns. The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, took his quest for votes in the February 25th presidential election to Enugu State. Although the state governor, Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi, was absent, members of his cabinet were there in their numbers, including his deputy governor, Cecilia Ezelu, who also urged the party supporters to deliver all their candidates in the upcoming election from state to the national level. Speaking during his campaign, which took place at the Michael Okpara Square in the state capital, the former vice president told the people that he will tackle insecurity, poverty, and other issues bedeviling the region if voted president.
Thank you. When I came here a few months ago to attend a zonal conference of the Southeast, I said to the Southeasterners or to the Igbos, I am going to be the stepping stone to an Igbo presidency. And I mean it. And I mean it. Whether an Igbo man is from the southeast or from the south-south, it is the same race. And today, my running mate is an Igbo man. It is a universal ethnic group. It is a universal race. I want to let you know that this country is geared towards electing a PDP government. Do not be an exception and do not be a minority. The next government in this country is going to be formed by the PDP. And therefore, as you have always been, be in the mainstream of Nigerian politics, because that is the only way that can bring about the prosperity, the economic development, the peace and the security you are looking for in this part of the country and also in country in general.
We'll certainly have more on presidential campaigns in parts of the country. Well, in part 2 after the break, Governor Nyesom Wike declares that those who think that the G5 governors have no influence in the forthcoming presidential election should prepare for a shocker in the country. Do join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television live from Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. Despite the Supreme Court's restraining order, Central Bank insists on implementing its deadline on the naira swap, even as it vows to prosecute POS operators who charge unapproved rates for transactions. Senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, faults the CBN on its decision to disobey the order of the Supreme Court over the use of old naira notes, says the CBN cannot pick and choose which court order to obey. The presidential candidates of the PDP, APC and Labour Party stormed southeast states of Enugu, Imo and Anambra in last-minute attempts to swing votes to their side. The Nigerian ambassador to Turkey tells our London correspondent Juliana Olayinka, who has been covering the situation in Turkey, that so far no Nigerian lives have been lost in the devastating earthquake. Staying with the presidential campaigns, and the president says he's confident that the All Progressives Congress presidential candidate, Senator Bola Tinubu, will emerge victorious in the February 25th presidential election. President Muhammadu Buhari made this known during the APC presidential campaign rally at the Dan Anyam Stadium in Owerri, the Imo State capital. He urged the people of the state to come out en masse and vote for the APC. The APC presidential candidate, Senator Tinubu, the national chairman, Abdullahi Adamu, the Imo State governor, Hope Uzodinma, and governors of Lagos and Ebonyi, among other party leaders, were at the event.
The All Progressives Congress campaign trail arrives at Dan Anyam Stadium in Owerri, the Imo State capital, with President Muhammadu Buhari, the presidential candidate of the party, Senator Bola Tinubu, the national chairman, Abdullahi Adamu, Hope Uzodinma, as well as other members of the party joining supporters for the party's mega rally in the Oriental city. Governor Hope Uzodinma and his Ebonyi State counterpart, David Umahi, addressed the crowd, asking them to use their PVCs to vote for the APC, beginning with the February 25 presidential election.
But I can assure you that Imo and Lagos State are in competition on who will bring the highest number of votes come next Saturday.
The shoe may be big, but we are confident that this is the only man qualified who understands you, a man that is uniting the entire nation like you.
On his part, Senator Bola Tinubu says Imo State has enormous potentials, which he hopes to tap into as soon as he becomes president.
We are going to reconstruct, re-beautify your roads. We are going to invest in education to all of you youths. 4 years of university education must be 4 years.
Addressing party faithfuls, President Muhammadu Buhari appreciates them for coming out en masse to receive him and the team, asking them to show the same zeal by voting for the APC, beginning with the first election on February 25.
I am here, ladies and gentlemen, to thank you very much for exposing yourself to the weather for so long to make sure that Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been delivered by our great party as the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Before the mega rally, President Muhammadu Buhari The presidential candidate of the APC, Bola Tinubu, as well as the Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodinma, pay a courtesy visit to the palace of the chairman of the Imo State Council of Traditional Rulers, His Royal Majesty Emmanuel Okeke, and his chiefs, and later commissions the newly reconstructed MCC Urata dual carriageway completed by Governor Hope Uzodinma.
Well, the Labour Party also had its own presidential campaign, and the presidential flag bearer of the party, Mr. Peter Obi, is appealing to traders in Anambra State to give him a chance to turn around Nigeria, just as they did when he campaigned to be governor of Anambra State. Speaking at a rally inside the popular Nkwo spare parts market in Nnewi, Mr. Obi said as a trader like them, he understands all their challenges and will address them swiftly if elected president. He also gave the assurance that just as he handled insecurity in the state when he was governor and brought menace under control, he is prepared to do the same for Nigeria.
I'm choosing to create a new Nigeria. A new Nigeria is possible. That new Nigeria is a Nigeria where there will be security of life and property. We have said there's too many poor people here, and we are committed to pulling people out of poverty. And the only way we can pull them out of poverty is to remove Nigeria from consumption to you can't talk about production without remembering Nnewi. I said to you about Nnewi, all the industries in Nnewi that is closed will be reopened.
All right, let's head to the nation's capital of Abuja, and Terry Ikumi is indeed standing by to give us the very latest. Terry.
Hello, Ayo. Good evening. Now, Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike says a shocker awaits those who think that the group of 5 governors of the PDP, otherwise called the G5, are no longer influential and united. Governor Wike says their reduced public engagement does not mean that the group is no longer active, maintaining that the February 25th election will prove their worth in the nation's politics. Governor Wike, who spoke at the state PDP rally in the Ahoda East local government area, also boasted of the chances of the PDP in winning the state-level elections.
The People's Democratic Party in Rivers State continues its campaign for the state-level elections with this rally in Ahoda East local government area. St. Paul's School Field in Ahoda Town is filled as party supporters give a rousing reception to the campaign council led by Governor Nyesom Wike. An overwhelmed governorship candidate of the party, Mr. Siminilaye Fubara, rates the attendance as a show of love and gives assurances of his ability to follow in the footsteps of Governor Wike in terms of governance.
All the good work that is ongoing here, anyone that is not completed, I will complete. I'm not limiting it to the completion alone, but I will work with the leaders of this LGA and the good people of Ekpeye Kingdom.
Governor Wike urges the people not to fall victim to cunning politicians, but trust the PDP that has lived up to their expectations.
What is important to all of us is that when we come for campaigns, we tell you all kinds of good stories. Then at the end of it, we'll be hearing excuses upon excuses. And I feel for the people. And the mistake we've always made, when you see that people have disappointed you, you continue to give them listening ears. That should stop.
He also speaks on the possible shocker that will be displayed by the PDP G5 governors against the expectation of those who think that the group has lost steam.
You say G5 don't die. Wouldn't be a problem now? We don't die. We agree. We don't die. We need to worry. You, it a worry. We no fit talk again. We no dey worry. Now you dey worry. You know they say politics. You get time for talk. You get time for action.
The campaign team earlier paid a courtesy visit to the king of the area, His Royal Majesty Anugu Kelvin Ngozi Diese Ekpeyelogbo III, for his royal blessings.
We're still talking politics. In Abia State, the governorship candidate of the Labour Party, Dr. Alex Oti, has taken his campaign to Area main market in Abia North local government area. He appealed to the residents to vote for Mr. Peter Obi, the presidential candidate, and other party candidate of the Labour Party in the general elections. According to him, Mr. Obi is the best out of all the candidates because he has character, capacity, and integrity.
The campaign train of Dr. Alex Oti is in Aba, the Abia State Commercial Center, as part of activities ahead of the March 11th governorship election. He commences his tour with a visit to A-Line Free Zone Shoe Plaza, Urata Timber Market, among others, all in Area main market, where he's received by a large crowd. Thereafter, he meets with leaders, stakeholders, and the people of Abia North local government area at an open field along Port Harcourt Express Road, before leaving for a church program at CS Park Market Road by George's Street. The Labour Party governorship candidate appeals to residents to vote for all Labour Party candidates in the elections.
My advice is that you can see all the presidential candidates, and everybody agrees that Labour Party has the best presidential candidate. And my advice is that everybody should come out en masse and vote Peter Obi, who is the presidential candidate of Labour Party.
In separate remarks, House of Assembly candidate Mr. Peter Azubuike and the party member Chinyere Nwaogbe declared that Dr. Alex has the pedigree and wealth of experience when compared to other candidates.
Dr. Alex Oti is God sent. He is the best candidate, he's the most qualified in terms of capacity, in terms of character, in terms of competence. It's a privilege for we Abians to have the likes of Dr. Alex Oti as the frontliner of Labour Party.
I've tested the dividends of democracy. And if at all we need change, we need to vote Dr. Alex Oti. If we need revival in Abia State, we need to vote him in. If we need development, we need to vote him in. Abia State is lacking behind, the worst state in the whole federation.
The party expresses optimism that Mr. Peter Obi's visit and the party's rally will translate to electoral victory in the 2023 polls.
Now, ahead of the May 29 handover of power, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, has inaugurated a 22-member Presidential Transition Council. They are to coordinate activities leading up to the handing over of political powers to the incoming president. The SGF urged the council members, which comprise the Chief of Defense Staff, the Inspector General of Police, and the Head of Service, as well as the Solicitor General of the Federation, among others, to ensure that the next administration succeeds.
In my capacity as chair of this council, I will do everything within my power to ensure we meet the expectations of Mr. President. I enjoin each of us to put in even more effort in ensuring the next administration receives every support needed to make an early and a quick start. In a few months, it will be 8 years that President Buhari has been in power. Within this period, we have made significant strides in advancing the fortunes of our nation. We have also learned lessons that will be useful for the incoming administration, and it is on the strength of this trajectory that the current administration is committing itself to making the 2023 transition process seamless for the incoming president and his team. Our achievements must be preserved. The reforms that enable those achievements must therefore be documented and communicated in clear terms so that the incoming administration understands what we have done, the basis of our decisions, what we have achieved, and the opportunities for continuity.
To the courts, Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court, Abuja, has again ordered status quo be maintained in the suit filed by Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State over threats to expel him from the PDP, pending the hearing and determination of the suit. Justice Omotosho also held that any action or step made to make the outcome of the motion on notice dated February 2nd, 2023 futile will be a nullity. The court subsequently adjourned to March the 6th for hearing of the suit, after counsel to the governor told the court that the respondents just served him with a counter-affidavit to the suit, and he needed time to respond. Among the residents in the matter are the PDP, the National Working Committee, the National Executive Committee, National Chairman of the PDP, Iyocha Ayu, as well as the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The respondents in their counter-affidavit are challenging the jurisdiction of the court to entertain the suit, stating that the matter is a domestic affair and are urging the court to dismiss it. Governor Wike had, in an ex parte application filed before the court, complained of the threat by the leadership of the PDP to either suspend or expel him. While staying with legal matters, a federal high court sitting in Lagos has fixed March 28th for the hearing of a final forfeiture application of the sum of $5.8 million and over 2 billion naira said to belong to former First Lady Dame Patience Jonathan. Justice Tijani Ringim fixed the date after listening to the arguments of the counsel to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Mr. Rotimi Oyedepo, SAN. Apart from the former First Lady, the other defendant in the suit is Lawari Furniture and Baths Limited. Defense counsel's senior advocate of Nigeria, Michael Zekome, and Sami Sumiari had applied to the court that the case be adjourned sine die pending the outcome of their appeal. But in a swift reaction, Mr. Oyedepo opposed the application. Justice Ringim upheld Oyedepo's submissions and directed that the motion for final forfeiture will be taken and determined first as canvassed by the EFCC counsel. Consequently, the judge adjourned the case to March 28th. And that's all from the nation's capital. The news continues in Lagos with Ayo.
Many thanks, Terry. Governor Abdullahi Ganduje of Kano State has banned the sale of drugs in open markets across the state. Governor Ganduje stated this during the commissioning of the Kanawa pharmaceutical market. According to him, the uncontrolled sales of drugs in Kano have made it difficult for authorities to curb the menace. Our correspondent, Sadiq Ilyasu, tells us more.
Koroso dancers graced the stage in celebration of the Kano Economic City, an initiative of Governor Abdullahi Ganduje with the aim of boosting economic activities in Kano State. The Kano pharmaceutical market is the first to be commissioned, and this is expected to bring sanity to the drug business across the state.
Why are we here today? We are here today to protect our health. All of us should be celebrating that because of this edifice, the coordinated wholesale center, we will have more confidence on the drugs that we use.
This is in line with the federal government's effort to curb drug trafficking in the country.
So the overriding goal for establishing the coordinated wholesale center is succinctly captured in the National Drug Distribution Guideline, which is to relocate stakeholders in drug business that operate in unregulated drug markets to regulated drug markets like this one that we are seeing here today.
This commissioning of the pharmaceutical market now makes the wholesale of drugs in the open market an illegal activity, according to the state government.
Of course, there are pharmaceutical chemists which have been registered, but for a wholesale of drugs, this is the only place that you can sell your drugs. All other areas will be closed down, and anybody found wanting, there is no doubt he will be taken to the courts for prosecution.
The Kano Economic City is gradually becoming a reality as the governor also lays the foundation for the construction of modern Kantin Quarry, a textile market. Sadiq Ilyasu, Channels Television News.
To diplomatic matters, the president is calling on the government of the United Arab Emirates to lift its blanket visa ban clamped on Nigerians. A media aide to the president, Garba Shehu, explained in a statement that President Muhammadu Buhari canvassed this position today during a telephone conversation with UAE counterpart Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, who doubles as the Emir of Abu Dhabi. According to the statement, the president had earlier called the UAE president to condole with him on the death of his mother-in-law, during which important issues of mutual concern between the two countries came up. It adds that recent irritants in bilateral relations generated by consular issues relating to the behavior of some Nigerians in the UAE are being ironed out by the relevant security and intelligence agencies of the two countries. It says President Buhari also requested the resumption of the operations of Emirates Airline in the country, which is suspended in 2022 in the wake of its inability to repatriate funds trapped in Nigeria. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has received a batch of 150 Nigerians from Niamey, Niger Republic, through the efforts of the Nigerian government and the International Organization for Immigration, IOM. According to NEMA, the returnees were voluntarily repatriated back home due to their inability to proceed with their journeys to their initial destination countries. Their plane touched down at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, earlier today, and were made up of 122 adults, 24 children, and 4 infants. Will Ibong is now standing by to give us the very latest in the world of business.
Thanks, Ayo. Now, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPC, has called for partnership among nations in Africa, especially in the area of knowledge sharing, to attain energy security and achieve transition to cleaner energy. The Group Chief Exchange Officer of the company, Mr. Mele Kyari, who made this known today at an event in Lagos, explains that reducing investment in hydrocarbon ventures cannot guarantee global energy security in the near future. He, however, says that an inclusive policy that guarantees access to finance and low-carbon technologies are key to sustaining global energy security and equitable growth, as energy demand in Africa is expected to increase by 30 to 35% in the next 20 years. Now, still on export matters, the Standards Organization of Nigeria, SON, has inaugurated calibrating mobile trucks and other measurement equipment in efforts aimed at boosting exports and consumer confidence on locally produced goods. Speaking at the occasion in Lagos, the Director General of the SON, Farouk Salim, and the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Shegun Ajayi Kadir, explained how the vehicles and measuring equipment will contribute to the promotion of micro, small, and medium enterprise products, processes, and services in the country.
Ensuring that not only our big companies that are located in centers that you can access, but that vehicles can move to far-flung places in Nigeria to be able to deliver this measurement service. For us, it is important because we are not only going to ensure the quality and the right quantum of our products, but for the buyer, he knows what he's buying. For the seller, you know what you are selling. And for us, it is good for us not to even oversupply, neither for the customer also not to be undersupplied.
Economic growth goes together with the industry surviving, the industry producing accurate products, the industry selling their products across the border. So this is very important. It will help all those things put together. The standards will be the same. If you take your products and take it to another African country or even European country, they will not fault you for lack of accuracy.
Now, economic advisory firm Financial Derivatives Company, FDC, forecasts Nigeria's headline inflation to increase to 21.42% in January from 21.34% in December, amid scarcity of fuel and naira, as well as pre-election jitters in the country. However, food inflation is projected to ease marginally to 23.64% from 23.75% in December. This is in line with consistent fall in global food prices, while core inflation is expected to jump to 18.73%. FDC lists exchange rates, supply shocks, and fiscal deficit monetization as major drivers of inflation in the country. According to the FDC, the cumulative 600 basis interest rate hike by the CBN appears ineffective in tackling inflation, as it recorded only a slight decline of 0.15% in December, the first decline in almost a year. Now, investors showed real love at the NGX as the all-share index rose further today by 0.24%. Laddie Williams has the details.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. And the second trading day of the week ends in the green as bulls take the all-share index higher. And it's not a bad move there, 0.24%, getting deeper into that 54K level. I guess 54.5 is the next line to beat at this point. Market cap, 29.682 trillion naira. Let's look at the activity chart today. We see buying pressures, all green. 177 million units of stocks valued at 5.69 billion naira. So we saw a lot of buy pressure today. Deals, 3,617. The MTN Nigeria adding to its share price, helping to take the market up. Let's look at the Guinness counter now. We see Triple G. I'm always seeing Triple G on the top Guinness counter this year, and it's right here now, 9.49% up. Cordville, 52 kobo, up 8.33%, and we see Chams there, also in the top Guinness counter. Let's look at the top losers counter now. We see International Energy Insurance Company, that's topping the losers counter, down 6.20% at 1 naira 21 kobo. So apparently, investors and the bulls did show the market some love today with that big gain we saw on the market today, even though we know red is the color for Valentine, but we did close in the green. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Laddie Williams. It's back to you.
Thanks, Laddie. We hope the exchange continues this bullish sentiment.
Many thanks, Will. Now, the people of Turkey and Syria have continued to count their losses from the 7.8 magnitude earthquake that hit both countries recently, claiming tens of thousands of lives. Well, our senior London correspondent, Juliana Olainka, who has been assessing the situation in Turkey, gathered that no Nigerian lives have been lost.
Nigeria has a large diaspora community in Turkey, which is why I've come to the capital city today. The pace may be slower here in Ankara than in Istanbul, but at the seat of power, things move fast.
You're very much welcome to Ankara, Turkey. I think you can see the sun. Did you enjoy the sun?
Ben Ayimbe heads the Nigerians in Diaspora organization in the region. He's lived in the country for 20 years, and his local knowledge has been a lifeline for Nigerians who have found themselves temporarily homeless.
Apart from Nigerians who were scared because it was their first time ever to witness a thing like this, and this is like life-threatening, so they were really scared. And it is winter, and they ran out and they slept outside for the first night, and so that panic also wanted them to get out of the city. And because the government had put like some kind of a restriction for people to go in or to get out of the place. They wanted to coordinate everything, so that was what happened. And so all we could do was to follow up. But I was a little anxious, like, I hope no Nigerian was affected. So to the best of my knowledge up till date, we are safe, and this is a miracle. It is a miracle.
Nigeria's ambassador to Turkey, Ismail Yusuf Abba, spoke to me about the sheer magnitude of the rebuilding project.
It's that big. For example, of course, we're talking about 10 provinces. And one of the provinces, to tell you the sheer size of the place and you understand the implication of the disaster. One of the affected areas, Gaziantep. Gaziantep is an industrial hub, and it's a major industrial hub in Turkey. As of last year, 2022, the export volume from that province alone, out of Turkey was $10 billion. So you can understand the extent of damage to the humans, to property infrastructure, business infrastructure, and then, of course, by implication to the economy of Turkey.
Even with the horrifying death toll, hope is not lost. The world's deadliest earthquake in just short of a century has united this country and its sprawling international community. Juliana Olainka reporting for Channels Television News in Ankara.
Ukraine's Prime Minister has accused Russia of trying to deprive it of drinking water and of endangering Europe's largest nuclear plant in the process by opening the sluice gates of the huge Kakova Dam on the Dnipro River, which they control. Well, it comes as NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said at the end of the NATO defense ministers' meeting today that the Russian President Vladimir Putin is preparing for more war, new offensives and new attacks. Simon Pusey has more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The head of NATO has warned that Ukraine is in dire need of ammunition ahead of a fresh offensive by Russia.
So it makes it just even more important that NATO allies and partners provide more support to Ukraine, and we will meet later on today in the US-led contact group for Ukraine.
Kicking off a meeting in Brussels, Jens Stoltenberg says President Putin is preparing for more war. Ukrainian Defense Minister Alexei Reznikov found time for a moment of humour, though, with reporters unfurling a handkerchief with an image of a fighter jet.
What's that? You see?
An item which he said was on his wish list to Santa. A week after the earthquake hit Turkey and Syria, the number of those killed has risen to more than 35,000. Here, the moment a building collapses as demolition work takes place in the Syrian earthquake zone. Before and after drone footage here showing the extent of the devastation in the Turkish city of Karam and Amarus. And here the immense scale of the damage in Hatay in the south of the country. The UN has warned the current number of confirmed dead could double. Police say at least 3 people have been killed after a gunman opened fire at Michigan State University. Oh my God. Eyewitness video showed people screaming and running from the campus during the shooting. As well as the 3 victims, police said the suspect had died apparently from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Another 5 people were injured in the attack at the main campus in the city of East Lansing.
I can confirm that there were at least 5 victims. All 5 victims were transported to the hospital. Some of those victims do have life-threatening injuries. The suspect in this incident, and we believe there to be 1 suspect, was last seen leaving the MSU Union on foot out of the north side of that building.
New Zealand's Prime Minister says Cyclone Gabrielle, which has pummeled much of the North Island, is a weather event not seen in a generation. Chris Hipkins' government has declared a state of emergency, only the 3rd time in New Zealand's history. About a third of the country's population of 5 million people live in affected areas. Many people are displaced and some have been forced to swim from their homes to safety, while others have been rescued from rooftops. About 250,000 people are without power. Falling trees have smashed houses and landslides have carried others away and blocked roads. Kenyan President William Ruto has hosted a national prayer day to seek God's intervention on challenges facing the country, including drought and hunger. The interdenominational event took place at a stadium in the capital, Nairobi. The East and Horn of Africa region is witnessing the worst drought in 40 years, with Kenyan officials saying at least 4.3 million people are in dire need of food assistance. Artists from across Africa have performed at the Amani Festival in Eastern Democratic Republic to show support for victims of conflict despite growing insecurity in the area. There were more than 20 acts, including Senegalese rap star Didier Awadi. The Amani Festival, which means peace in Swahili, usually takes place in Goma, capital of North Kivu province, but it was moved for the first time since its launch in 2014 due to an M23 rebel offensive. More than 30,000 people attended the three-day festival. And over 70 couples in Thailand have tied the knot on the back of elephants during a special Valentine's Day mass wedding event in the eastern province of Chonburi. Performers and young elephants danced to lead a procession at North Nooch Tropical Garden as more elephants carrying couples arrived at the parade. A local district official, also on an elephant, oversaw the signing of the marriage license. The popular elephant-back wedding is an annual event at the Botanic Garden, which saw up to 100 couples participating during pre-pandemic times. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon, and welcome to Sports News. The Super Eagles will take on the Wild Dogs of Guinea-Bissau on match day 3 of the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations qualification series at the Moshood Abiola Stadium in Abuja on Friday, the 24th of March. The Super Eagles are also expected to face Guinea-Bissau in the reverse fixture of either match day 27th or 28th in the Moroccan city of Marrakech, as the country does not have a CAF-approved playing turf. Victory in both matches against the Wild Dogs will certainly pave the way for the Super Eagles to the biggest football competition in Africa, built to hold in Côte d'Ivoire. And Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola has issued a public apology to former Liverpool captain Steven Gerrard over comments made in the wake of the Premier League hitting City with over 100 breaches of financial rules. The English champions could face points deductions or even relegation from the English top flight if they are found guilty of the alleged breaches by an independent commission. However, Guardiola said he had since been in touch with Gerrard to offer his apologies. Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta has insisted that the Gunners will be filled by anger when they face Manchester City in a clash between the Premier League's top two on Wednesday. Arsenal lead over Man City at the top of the table was cut to 3 points at the weekend after a controversial 1-1 draw with Brentford. Arsenal received an apology from the body in charge of referees after Brentford's goal was wrongly awarded because of a failure to properly check for offside by VAR official. Now, a surprise hire by Club Brugge in December last year, Scott Parker is preparing to coach in the Champions League for the very first time as the Belgian side take on Benfica in the last 16. Now, despite qualifying from the Champions League group stage for the first time, the Belgian champions have struggled in their domestic league this season and sit a distant 4th, 20 points behind leaders Genk. Parker is the first Englishman to manage a foreign club in the Champions League since Bobby Robson. And that's it on sports. It's back to Aya for the rest of the news at 10.
Many thanks, Jeffrey. And the main news again. The Central Bank of Nigeria, the CBN, today said there's no going back on implementing its deadline on the naira swap, just as it vowed to prosecute POS operators who charged unapproved rates for transactions. And that's the news at 10. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. Have a wonderful evening and stay safe.